You got an interview all lined up at Google. You've read through all the stuff on Glassdoor and all the websites that tell you exactly what sort of questions they're going to ask. You've got stock answers for everything, the ones that everybody says is the best answer to give. You've gone to LeetCode and gone through 500 different problems. You feel like you know every single interview problem that could possibly be asked and expect to be answered in an hour. So you're set, right? You're absolutely golden. You've done everything right. Wrong. Hi, my name is John L. Miller and I'm the Deliberate Engineer. Today I'm going to talk to you about preparing for interviews and the right way to think about it. For the first 10 or 20 years that I was both interviewing people and being interviewed myself, I had it completely wrong, and so I want to share the lessons that I've learned with you. I spent the last 30 years of my career working at Google, Microsoft, Amazon, and some smaller ones too. Oracle, a startup called ThoughtSpot. I've been at universities. I've worked for the government. I've probably performed between 300 and 500 interviews for these various companies, and I've been interviewed myself 30 or 40 times. What's wrong with preparing the best you possibly can for what might be the only shot you have at your dream job? The answer is simple. You're thinking about it like a test, like something in college or high school, where all you have to do is learn a certain set of information, you regurgitate it at the right time, and then you get an A on your course forever. That's not the way it works in business. In fact, what you're really doing is going through a sort of a matchmaking process with the company that's interviewing you. They have a certain set of needs. They're trying to figure out if you're going to be a person who not just has the technical ability, but also matches those needs. And likewise from your side, you need to be checking it out and not just saying, oh, I'm going to work at Google, it's the best thing, but really figuring out if it's the right job for you to advance your career goals, to help you enjoy the work that you're doing. If you don't think about the interview the right way, then even if you get the job, you could be setting yourself up for failure just a few months down the road. The reason is simple. Just because you can get the job doesn't mean you can do the job. And the reality is, if you get a job by gaming the system, by doing your best to manipulate how the interviews are done, you're hurting not only yourself, but the company. The reality is, by gaming the system, you've put yourself in a position where you're likely going to have just an awful experience to that new company. You'll be working there for a year or 2 years until you finally get tired enough of it and the pain that you're in to leave. And that does a couple things for you. First of all, it really does make it difficult for you to move on and focus on your career. And second, you have something on your resume now that you're going to have to explain every time you interview for years. So how do you avoid this painful situation? The answer is simple. You think about the interview not just from your position, but from the company's side. First, you need to understand why the company is hiring and what they expect to get out of a hire. A company is a lot like a living organism. It's a collection of people, you can think of those as cells, organized into organs, all working together to keep the company functioning, to help it grow, to help it do great things. Each year, a company has to budget how much to spend on development, how much it's going to have to spend on facilities, as well as trying to guess how much revenue they're going to bring in. Part of that is based on existing products. Part of that is based on new products. A company will typically have a budget set aside for expansion. In other words, for creating the offices that people will work in and being able to hire some good people into particular groups. Usually it happens from the bottom up, where managers will come up with ideas of things that they think the company should be doing. They pass those up to their directors. The directors take a look, and of all the different options they've been given by the managers, they have to pick a certain number of those that they can fund because they don't have infinite resources. For example, a director might be allocated 3 people that they can hire for their 200-person organization, and they might get proposals that could use 20 or 30 people. So what they do is they pick a couple of the efforts that seem most likely to succeed and most critical, and they say, okay, we can hire people for these 3 positions. Then they go and they propose that up the chain to the people who run the company, to the financial controllers, and they get approval for that headcount, and then the whole process of recruiting and hiring starts. So all this happens before you ever see a job posting. Then once that job posting comes out, they look at candidates. Typically for software companies, it's not a question of choosing between the 5 best candidates. It's a problem of finding a candidate who can do the job you need done at all. Sometimes it takes a couple weeks to find somebody in a great market. Sometimes it can take months or even years. For one job that I was in, as I was trying to recruit someone, I spent more than 18 months interviewing people without ever finding the right person. This happens. It's hard. So what happens if the wrong person gets hired for a job? For example, they look much better in the interview than they actually are at doing the job, or they're just not interested in what the company's doing. The impact is much broader than you would expect. For example, as a manager, let's say I hire somebody in. I had plans to add a new feature and to pull in a deadline from being a year out to being 8 months out instead, all with this new person I hired. I hired an experienced person, so everything would be great. Well, I get them on board, and lo and behold, it turns out they gamed the interview. Now I have somebody who I'm trying to work with. They're taking a disproportionate amount of my time. So in the past, when I've, say, been managing a 10-person group, I might spend a third to half of my time working with a problem employee, having a lot of trouble getting things done. And that means all the other people who are doing their job get less attention. It means that I do not as good a job of passing information up the stack. It also takes HR, who has to be notified what's going on and told about it, and they also need more meetings with the manager as well, so that takes some additional time. The director has to know about it, and they have to start making contingency plans. It also takes more time from the other people on the team who are having to mentor and help the person along. Lots of times it's not that the person is bad at programming in general. They're just not necessarily the right fit for the job. That is one of the key symptoms of somebody who got through by gaming the interview. And it's not just the company that pays a price for this. It's also the person who got hired. So I've been in this situation a couple times myself because I tend to interview better than I actually am, at least for some of the jobs that I apply for. A company gets very excited about hiring me. I go in, and then lo and behold, it takes me a while to get up to speed. And suddenly all the plans they have to shift. It's an awful experience. If you get hired into a job that either doesn't align with the sort of things you want to be working on, or you just don't have the skills to be able to do it, then you're sitting there feeling guilty, working hard. You still get a paycheck, but that's really the only good thing about it. And you get messages from your boss, oh, you should be doing more, you should be doing better. And the peers around you are having to pick up the slack that they thought was going to be picked up by you as the new employee. And this drags on and on. If you don't manage to get up to speed, then it gets worse from there. You start getting micromanaged, and you get mails saying things like, here's your goals for the next week. Do you accept these goals? And you have to respond back, yes, I accept them. This is part of the process called documentation, where they're documenting any issues with your performance. And this goes on and on until they start saying things like, we've noticed you're not able to do X. This means that you're not meeting the basic requirements for the job, and this can lead to corrective action, up to and including a PIP or even termination. If things still don't get better, eventually you wind up having to leave the company. It's just awful. I mean, if you haven't gone through this before, if you haven't spent months or years working at a job that you just can't do well, that you're not meeting expectations, unless you've lived through that, you really don't know how bad it feels. And I assure you, you do not want to know how bad it feels. I've outlined a nightmare scenario where you get a job, but you can't actually do the job to the degree that it needs to be done at the company. So how do you avoid this? Well, from the candidate side, it's actually pretty straightforward. Before you contact any companies, take a good look through your resume and spend some time considering your previous experience. You want to be able to talk intelligently about anything on your resume that an interviewer might be interested in. It can be things that are just a couple years back. Frequently, if somebody's got 10 or 15 years of experience, it might be something from those first couple years. Not every interviewer is going to understand why you don't have all the details right at your fingertips for something that you did 15 years ago. So you really want to do some reading up on these things. Refresh your memory about what your part of the job was, what you enjoyed doing, what you didn't enjoy doing, how much leadership you showed, any particularly thorny technical problems that you were working on, things like that. You want to have all of this sort of solidly in your mind. You also want to spend some serious time thinking about what you want to get out of the job, not just salary or compensation. What do you want to be able to do that you couldn't do before? What is your goal in terms of skills acquired and competencies that have been demonstrated at the end of, say, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years? Do you want to just keep growing as an individual contributor, as an engineer? Would you like to move into management? Would you like to move into higher level corporate management? What are your goals? It's fine for these goals to change, but you should have some, and you should have some thoughts behind why they're your goals. If you're just throwing out random stuff, it's pretty easy to tell. Next, you need to pick the places that you want to apply at. It's fine for them to consist of lots of aspirational places like, oh, I've always wanted to work at Facebook or Google or whatever, name your favorite company. But if you don't already have a track record with companies like that, then you want to also have a couple ringers, companies that you can apply for, you're very confident you'll get an offer for. And so for that, if you've been working in a particular area, Let's say you've been a programmer analyst at an insurance company working on their internal customer service apps. You might want to actually apply for similar roles at other large companies in case you can't find another job. So again, you have a mixture of aspirational and high confidence jobs that you're applying for. Send out your applications. When they come back, start scheduling interviews. Let's say that you're interviewing for some jobs using technology or solving problems in a way that you haven't done before or you haven't done in a while. In that case, it's absolutely a good idea to spend some time refamiliarizing yourself with the tools that would be expected to be used, playing with the language to make sure you know the common constructs, that you can easily put together a program that would be expected to be written during an interview. But you shouldn't go overboard. Don't do 200, 500, 1,000 problems. That defeats the purpose. You just want to do enough so that you can give a good representation of where you actually are, rather than trying to game the system and earn that A that's going to wind up backfiring on you later. Another thing you should do is make a list of questions for the people who are going to be interviewing you. Many of these people are going to be your future peers or your future managers. So you're already setting up a relationship with them. Rather than going in and just saying, oh, well, you know, I just want to work and do good stuff and I love your company and I want to work there. Instead, you want to have some thoughtful questions for them. Things like, what's your day look like day to day? How much time do you get to program? How much overhead is there in meetings? What do you wish you knew when you were in my shoes and you were interviewing for this job? Is your group a good place to work? Is your group growing? Do you feel like there's a lot of new work to do? Just all kinds of things. And you can always fall back to asking them some personal questions too. Things like, do you like what you're doing? What do you wish you knew when you interviewed? Make sure you pay attention on the personal side of things. You're talking to people who are going to be making semi-objective but also subjective decisions about you, based in part on the answer to the question, would I like to work with this person? Do I think they fit in the company? So as you go along, try to remember people's names, try to remember what they do, and a couple salient facts about each interview that you have. I like to jot these down in between interviews, or if I don't get a chance to do that at the end of the day, I'll sit and sort of try and reconstruct the day and just write a paragraph about each person I talk to. It's useful for follow-up discussions to be able to say, I think I talked to Dave, and Dave told me that there's this interesting area to work on. Do you know anything about that? That shows that you care, that you're engaged. That's more likely to make you somebody who can contribute to the company rather than just coming in and trying to be a drone who earns a salary. One thing you absolutely should not do is try and learn new technology for the interview. This almost always backfires. So for me, for example, I went and I tried to learn a bunch of networking libraries for Java that I hadn't used before when I was interviewing. They would have been perfectly happy to let me interview in languages I was more familiar in networking in, such as C++ or C#. But I was like, no, the job is in Java. I want to work in Java. And then I promptly forgot and mixed up half the stuff I was writing, so it looked like I didn't know anything about what I was doing. I just bombed that interview. Don't be like me. Use what you know, stick to your experience, give them an accurate picture of your experience, and that's most likely to wind up with a happy result and a happy ending for you as someone who's interviewing. Summing things up, a lot of people approach an interview like it's some sort of a final examination. It's not. This is the first step towards hopefully a long career helping out the company, with the company helping out you and teaching you new skills and advancing your career. If you go in trying to game the interviews and just trying to pass a test, you're going to be unhappy with the results, the company's going to be unhappy with the results, and it's bad all the way around. Don't think just of yourself. Think of things holistically, and the experience is going to be much better for you. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you found it useful, leave me a comment and tell me what you liked. Or if you don't agree with some of the things in it, leave me a comment about that too, so that I can do a better job of thinking about whatever it is I got wrong and incorporating that into future videos. I'm going to be making lots more career-based videos moving forward, so if you enjoyed the content in this, chances are good you'll like the future ones as well. Thanks a lot, and have a great day.